Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome to Cabinet on Tuesday, the 15th of February. This is our 9th meeting of Cabinet held under the current arrangements. And to remind those who have joined us online, this meeting is a consultation with Cabinet, as I have for the time being delegated the ability to make decisions to the individual portfolio holders. Previously, Cabinet took decisions collectively, but instead of the usual roll call of members to take the decisions, I will seek via a show of hands Cabinet members' general agreement or disagreement with the recommendations in each of the reports. Following this consultation, the decisions of the individual portfolio holders will be published on or before Wednesday, the 15th of February, and key decisions will be implemented the following week from the 24th of February, unless the calling procedure is invoked. I assume that must be Wednesday, the 16th of February, just for correction there. So we move into the main item. So number one is apologies for absence, and I believe we have none received. Is that right? Thank you. Item 2 is announcement from the chairman and or the head of paid services, and I've been told that there is an announcement from the head of paid services. So over to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll mention this again at council at the end of this month, but we posted the statement of persons nominated for Ryle and Castleton Ward by-election on Friday. It's Friday the 11th. There are 2 candidates nominated: Richard Foster, the Conservative Party candidate, and Rick Wilson, Green Party candidate. The poll will take place between 7 AM and 10 PM on the 10th of March 2022. We wish both candidates all the best and look forward to welcoming the successful candidate to the council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. We now move on to item 3, which is declarations of interest. And I have 2 hands up. So Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Chair. I have a personal interest in report 03/2022 and 19/2022. After taking advice from the monitoring officer, it's okay for me to take part in debate. I will not vote, and I will leave the meeting if it strays too close to the 2 items. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Stevenson.
Same as Councillor Harvey, item 7, fees and charges. I will remain for the debate, but I won't be voting due to paying for an A board for my business.
Thank you very much. Duly noted. We now move on to item 4, which is record of decisions. To confirm the record of decisions made at the meeting of Cabinet held on the 18th of January 2022, and they're pages 5 to 8 in our pack. Are there any items in there? Are we happy to just confirm the record of decisions? I see nodding heads. Maybe we can just do a quick show of hands, if that would be all right. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you, David, as well. So that is accepted, please. Items raised by scrutiny, I believe there are none received. Is that correct?
None, Chair.
Thank you, Tom. So we now move on to item 6, which is the first major item on the agenda, which is revenue and capital budget 2022-23. I'm going to hand over to Councillor Payne for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just check that everybody can hear me okay, please? Yeah, good, thank you. I'm presenting the final budget for 22-23. It will be presented to full council on the 28th of February. The draft was approved to go forward to consultation at January's Cabinet meeting. The budget headlines remain the same. We're setting a budget of 42.345 million. We are still proposing a council tax increase of 4.99%, 3% of which is adult social care precept. There is still a forecast deficit in the medium-term financial plan of over £2 million in 23-24. However, since Cabinet approved the draft budget to go forward to consultation in January, there have been some changes which I would like to bring to your attention rather than go through the whole of my draft budget speech again, which you're probably grateful for. Further work has been done since the draft was published, when we forecast a deficit of less than £100,000 to be drawn from general fund reserves to balance the budget. I'm very pleased to inform you that due to some technical changes, which are detailed in the document, the amount required to balance the 22-23 budget is only £6,000. This is excellent news. It really is good news. So Adults and Children's Growth and Infrastructure and Resources Scrutiny Committees scrutinised the draft budgets on the 26th and 27th of January, respectively. There were questions raised ahead of the meetings which were answered, and these answers and questions are appended to the minutes of the meetings. The full minutes of both meetings are available on the RCC website. Although there were numerous questions asked, there were no recommendations approved at either committee to be brought to the Cabinet for consideration as per the agenda this morning. The public consultation that we went through completed on the 9th of February, following online and in-person events in Uppingham and Oakham marketplaces, which allowed residents an opportunity to discuss many topics with members besides the budget. We estimate that we talked to around 600 residents, also to an unquantifiable number of visitors who came regularly to visit the market and enjoy a day out in our lovely county. The output of the consultation is included in your papers, but the biggest concern of residents by far during the in-person sessions was the disparity in the amount of funding from government and the amount Rutland residents are required to contribute towards the council's revenue. In Rutland, this is 80% of the budget. The average in other unitary councils is a 60% contribution. Obviously, we're not happy about this, and in fact are working hard with our MP to lobby the Ministry of Levelling Up Housing and Communities to see a result in this disparity. In the consultation, we asked the question, what would you prefer the council did to balance its budget? The majority response to this was, go with the maximum council tax increases, that's 5% in 22-23 and 3% thereafter, which is the current maximum, and reduce or cut services by 5 to 6%. The majority supported the proposed increase in council tax. There was also a majority response from Rutland residents in support of the operating principles the council agreed in July 2021 to underpin the approach to financial management. This is positive because these principles will carry forward into analysis regarding new projects currently being identified to change the shape of the council and transform the way it operates, making it more efficient and cost effective. The changes will consider reviewing leadership, management and the senior structure, corporate services and the cultural and transport offer, to name but a few areas. There is a strong likelihood that any changes will impact frontline services, but this will be necessary to deliver a viable council beyond 22-23, removing the deficit in the medium-term financial plan. Another change since the draft budget was that the Chancellor announced the council tax energy rebate scheme. This will be paid through the council, although we will receive new burdens funding to meet the cost of this, so it shouldn't impact the budget. In summary then, for 22-23, we have done extremely well to balance the budget using only £6,000 of reserves. Assuming a council tax of 4.99% rate is agreed at council on the 28th of February. But there is hard work underway at present to identify new cost savings initiatives to remove the deficit in the medium-term financial plan. These changes will impact frontline services and have some hard decisions to make over the coming months to effect these changes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are we any comments or questions from anybody here? Councillor Rizal.
Chair, thank you. An extraordinary piece of work by a lot of people, and I think it's really important that we recognise that the finance officer and his team and members and the public actually have done an awful lot of work, and that really is appreciated.
Thank you. I echo that completely on what's been achieved here today. So are we happy that we go to the recommendations, or any other comments or questions on this moment in time? No. Okay, I'm going to read them all out because they're quite lengthy. That the portfolio holder in consultation with Cabinet recommends to Council that it approves the general fund budget for 22-23 of 42.345 million, section 11. Approves an increase in council tax of 4.99%, including 3% for the adult social care precept, resulting in a Band D charge of £1,917.36, Section 10. Approves the use of the remaining government hardship fund to provide further council tax discounts to the most vulnerable residents. Delegates authority to the Strategic Director for Resources and consultation with the portfolio holder with responsibility for finance to administer the council tax energy rebate scheme using new burdens funding as appropriate. Delegates authority to the Strategic Director for Resources and Strategic Director for Adult Services and Health to use any new burdens funding for adult social care charging reforms as required to enable the council to meet the October 2023 target dates. Delegates authority for the Chief Executive or Strategic Director for Resources in consultation with the portfolio holder with the responsibility for finance to continue discussions with cost reduction consultants and spend up to 100k on a viable project. Approves additional stroke deletions to the capitals programme as per 12.1.2. Approves the changes to earmark reserves as per 9.2.3. Notes that additional revenue or capital expenditure may be incurred in 22-23 funded through 21-22 budget underspends to be carried forward via earmarked reserves. The use of reserves for budget carry forwards is not currently shown in the budget but will have no impact on the general fund. Approves the estimated surplus of 186k on the collection fund as at the 31st of March 2022, of which 159,000 is Rutland's share. Notes responses to consultation, section 15, notes the position on the dedicated schools grant, section 14, delegates authority to the S151 officer to make any necessary changes to the budget arising from the council tax decisions and or any additional funds received. Can I ask if Cabinet agrees with these recommendations by a show of hands, please? All in favour, thank you very much. Can we now move on to item 7, which is fees and charges 2022-23, and this is Councillor Payne again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The council have to review fees and charges on an annual basis as part of the budget process. The document you have in front of you summarises the proposed changes for 22-23, and I think it's fairly self-explanatory. This excludes taxi and private hire vehicles licences, which will be subject to consultation through public notice procedure and will be brought back to Cabinet for approval following consultation. Where council is able to set the fee, we have set inflation at 5%. Nationally set fees have not yet been notified to us by the government. The document you have today was presented to all scrutiny committees at the end of January, and there were no recommendations made or changes discussed. We received one question asking if council was sure it was covering its costs, which we answered satisfactorily. I asked Cabinet to recommend to council the approval of the fees and charges in front of you today. I would like to say, just to add, I did receive one question about the educational psychology rates. I have queried that, and in fact the table in the document is actually correct. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So are there any comments or questions on this? No? Okay, thank you very much. Again, a good piece of work, I think. So the recommendations are that the portfolio holder in consultation with Cabinet recommends council to approve the level of fees and charges for 22-23 as set out in Appendix 1, except for taxis and private licence hire. And I think Councillor Payne ran through all of these. So basically, our Cabinet happy to, and two won't be voting on this. So is it just those that can vote, please show their hands. Fantastic, that's unanimous amongst the 4 of us, if that's possible to be unanimous. Thank you. We now move on to Q3 finance update, which is again Councillor Payne. You're having to work hard today.
Yes, you get bored of listening to me, never mind. Q3 finance update. I'm pleased to say we continue to do well with 21-22 finances, and we are still forecasting a £2.2 million underspend on the year at Q3. Again, this is good news, which I'm asking Cabinet to note. There are no new issues to report since Q2. Some of the savings are still occurring from demand-led budgets in adult and children's care, together with savings arising from vacancies, some of which we are holding to understand if we could do without recruiting into some posts. However, this does put pressure on balancing demand and delivery, which is a fine line as we understand what the impact may be of holding the level of service as we reduce spending. There are similarly no new pressures to report. The main ones with an overspend in excess of £25,000 are property services and the Resources Directorate for the employment of the interim monitoring officer. However, this has been offset by restructuring the business support and governance teams. GIR scrutiny has recently had a packed agenda, therefore did not request that the Q3 budget came in front of the committee this time. We have achieved a great deal this year, whilst delivering over £2 million worth of savings. This will be reflected in the annual report, which will be created shortly. As we come to the end of the financial year, we should view the position very positively. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from Cabinet? No, thank you. It's just that the portfolio holder and Cabinet notes the updated financial position, so thank you for that. We now move on to item 9, which is a sustainable warmth funding allocation and award, and I believe that's actually not Councillor Stevenson but Councillor Rozelle who's bringing this paper. Thank you. Over to you, Councillor Rozelle.
Chair, thank you. And introducing the paper, it's noticeable for all those online following us today and for members present that there's a number of things on that will change for the final document. But in introducing this paper, I wanted to look firstly at the amount of work that's gone on in the background from officers and the changing face of the detail behind this paper. So the decision recommendations are already there, but what I wanted to do was just go through some words that have been prepared and I've been in consultation with officers about, and that is, since the report of 2022 Sustainable Warmth Funding Allocation Award was drafted, it's become clear that the discussions with Leicester County Council and Leicestershire districts were more advanced than previously been the case, the original position being set out in paragraphs 2.13 and 3.1. There is an opportunity, therefore, for RCC to join with this arrangement through the shared public health service, and for this to be in place at the start before project delivery. Delivery would be led through LCC, with RCC and the districts feeding in priorities. It's been costed by LCC as deliverable within the grant budgets. LCC aim to have signed template letters from councils supporting the project by 25 February this year, with districts reviewing and signing off delivery plans week commencing the 14th of March. The Midlands Energy Hub has granted the bid an extension on submitting a delivery plan to the 21st of March. Although then some uncertainties remain, the balance of risk has shifted sufficiently, to change the current recommendation to that the council decline the grant conditions to one where we might be able to accept the grant. The new recommendation 2 would delegate to the Strategic Director of Places any final decision on the Sustainable Warmth Funding allocation from the Midlands Energy Hub for local authority delivery and home upgrade grants in consultation with the portfolio holder and Section 151 officer. If the new recommendation 2 were adopted, reasons for recommendation at paragraph 12.1 would remain. And the reason for the recommendation might be the MEH programme would enable more properties to be reached, and the delegated authority to approve a joint approach with Leicestershire County Council and Leicestershire districts will allow this opportunity to progress if viable. Mr. Chairman, what I wanted to do now was look for questions from those in the room. As I say, this information has come to us quite late. It is unusual. It has been reviewed by the monitoring officer and officers, and I'm very happy to take questions, but equally we'll refer to officers if that's required.
Thank you very much. So does Cabinet have any questions or comments? Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, very pleased to see this paper, because I think anything that enables Rutland residents to improve their energy efficiency is absolutely excellent. And I'll also make the point, though, that the initial number 2, declining the conditions, the impact actually on our resource within the authority, I think always does absolutely have to be considered, and the deliverability of that. And I'm assuming officers will be sort of passing that on to the upper powers that be, that we do need resource to be able to administer this type of thing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I don't know whether you want to respond. I mean, it seems that was a relatively very straightforward comment from Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you. And I completely agree with Councillor Stevenson. I'm absolutely certain that as portfolio holder and officers who are on screen today, we will ensure that takes place.
Any other questions or comments? No, and I'm pleased to see it. I think it just gives an added strength to Rutland and the opportunities we have. So good work, really. Thank you. So can we just have a show of hands for Cabinet, whether we're in agreement with the recommendations? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Sorry, my machine has decided to go to sleep. We now move on to item 10, which is the grounds maintenance and forestry procurement, which is Councillor Stevenson.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Chair. So grounds maintenance, just to be absolutely clear, we're talking about the verge cutting and the maintenance of grounds, and obviously the forestry, which is including a fairly non-specialist maintenance of shrubs, as well as the more specialist need for tree surgeons. Currently, we have 2 different contracts that were finishing at a different time. What I am proposing, or what in the recommendations, is that we are extending both contracts so they end at the same time, which would be December 23. In part, that makes sense from a point of view of being able to soft market test to get the best value for money. For example, putting non-specialist forestry activity with the grounds maintenance, so therefore we can focus forestry on the specialist element of that contract. Also, crucially, as I'm sure everybody's aware, the to cut verges, not to cut verges, etc., is actually a very emotive subject within our community, within our parishes, and actually internally as well, because that balance of biodiversity and highway safety, actually finding that middle ground where some of the people are happy is challenging. So by extending, that enables us to have a very robust consultation period to make sure that when we start off in January 24, we've got the best possible contracts to deliver on those aspirations. So balancing highway safety, of course, and the biodiversity. The other thing to note, we wish to avoid mobilising 2 significant contracts, because running alongside this, we've got our waste re-procurement, which is due to start in April 24. So by having a 3-month gap between January and April, it ensures that we've got sufficient resource to mobilise both key contracts as well as possible. You will note in Appendix A, the dates for the various contracts are differing to the covering report. We will be updating that appendix to reflect the intended dates, which are in the covering report which you have before you. The other thing I would like to touch on is the cost. The projected cost of the contracts is based on what we are currently paying. In an ideal world, we would put into this paper, we're aiming for a 10% saving. officer and officer professional view is that we need to be mindful that overhead costs are increasing, whether that's fuel, whether that's labour. So within that report, we're aiming to keep the same budget. But could I please reassure colleagues, when we are soft market testing, when we are proceeding through this work, obviously we want to get the best value for money, and where it is practicable, our aspiration is of course to save, just to reassure you there, Councillor Payne, but I am minded to note the overheads. I think that I have covered everything, but I will look to Mrs. Sharp just to check that I haven't left any glaring omissions. Oh, brilliant, excellent. So I'm very, very happy to take any questions, Chair, but would be grateful for support for the 3 recommendations.
Thank you very much. So are there any questions or comments from Cabinet, please? No? Okay, thank you very much for that. So the recommendations are that portfolio holder in consultation with Cabinet approves the re-procurement of the combined ground maintenance and forestry contract as detailed in the pre-procurement business case attached to Appendix A in accordance with the service-led governance arrangements detailed in the report. Notes that the Council has exercised a contractual option to extend the existing grounds maintenance contract to now expire on the 31st of December 2023, and notes that the Council has also exercised a contractual option to extend the existing forestry contract to now expire on the 31st of December 2023. Can I have by show of hands that we're in support of that recommendation? Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you very much. We now move on to item 11, which is prioritised programme for spending of commuted sums for affordable housing. And this has Councillor Rizal and Councillor Harvey. I don't know which one's leading on this. Is it you, Councillor Rizal? Thank you. Over to you.
Sorry, Chair, I was conscious there I was muted, which we're meant to be, but I'd not realised I was still muted. Presenting this paper to Cabinet, I think the first thing to say is from a public perspective, we face a good deal of scrutiny on how we meet the numbers that we're asked to deliver around affordable housing. I wanted to again pay particular attention to the work carried out by officers, but also by members, and particularly by members in areas where affordable housing is a real priority, and I'm grateful for their continued lobbying on behalf of their residents. In presenting the paper this morning, it recognises that we've made considerable steps forward to deliver affordable housing in the last couple of years, but there is still more to do. And in the recommendations, Chair, I hope that Cabinet is able to support the proposal to move forward, and also to target where we believe affordable housing needs to be delivered for the future of the county. I'm happy to take questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I open it up to questions or comments, please. No? Fantastic, thank you. So the portfolio holder in consultation with Cabinet approves a prioritised list in section 3 of this report, noting of the likely level of resources available for allocation through the bidding rounds, and authorises the strategic director of places to establish a bidding process for grant applications, setting out in a separate document for bidders the priorities in section 3, other lower priority bids that may be accepted, and the details of scoring matrix to be used by the council, and authorises the strategic director of places to determine grant applications in accordance with the bidding process. Can I please have a show of hands if we're in agreement with that? Thank you very much. I believe we're now moving with potential to exclusion of press and public, but we have possibility now to move the meeting continues in a public session that I believe Cabinet will be able to discuss and agree on the recommendations of report 19/2022 and 36/2022 without divulging content of the exact appendices. Can I have a seconder on that or on Cabinet? Thank you. Are we in agreement as Cabinet? Thank you very much. So if we can proceed now to Homeschool Transport Contract Award, which is Councillor Rizal.
Chair, thank you. Just checking I wasn't on mute again. Proceeding with the paper, again, I'm grateful to officers for their continued diligence with this work. And being new to the portfolio, I've spent a good many hours reading through and understanding the challenges that are around the delivery of home to school transport, not least of that, which are faced by those who are over the age of 16. Given the conditions that we have, Chair, the decision recommendations within the paper, I think speak for themselves. But what we must continue to do as an authority, as a county council, is to continue to challenge to the centre to understand how we can achieve better solutions, better funded solutions for the county. I'm open to questions, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? No, I think we understand the position that we're in on this one. So the recommendation is the portfolio under consultation with Cabinet approves the procurement of model section 4 and criteria for award of home school transport appendix B contracts for academic year 22-23 and delegates the authority to the strategic director for places in consultation with the portfolio holder with responsibility for transport to award the contracts resulting from this procurement. So can I have a show of hands, please, if we're supportive of this? Thank you very much. I assume you're abstaining, Councillor Harvey. Thank you. Item 4 is a bus service improvement plan and enhanced partnership, and that's Councillor Rizal again. Thank you.
Chair, thank you. In bringing this paper, I must immediately draw attention and thank the previous portfolio holder for her really steady hand on the tiller on this one, and what an extraordinary piece of work it has been. The first thing to say, I suppose, is that both officers, previous portfolio holder and others, have been challenged significantly with the extraordinary timelines that were placed on this work, in fact, and in many cases it has been that the work that has taken place to deliver this paper and the plans for it have had to take priority over other work because of the timelines applied by the centre. So I'm particularly grateful that the team have been able to deliver it, even with the frustrations of the centre moving the timelines for the delivery of the papers subsequently, and other frustrations within that. Chair, I'm open to questions on the paper. It is detailed. There is still to be decisions around the funding that may or may not come to the county in regards of the BSIP, but I'm open to questions from members.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stevenson, you have your hand up.
Yeah, it wasn't a question. You'll be pleased to hear, Councillor Rizal. It was a general comment that I think involves our MP. As Councillor Rizal knows, I feel incredibly sorry for our transport department. Horrendous timelines, which Councillor Rizal has mentioned, to deliver very in-depth, detailed plans, as you can see in the papers, whilst also throwing darts in the dark with unclear funding, with Buses Back Better that has a decidedly urban slant. So there's a very real risk that when the funding allocation comes out, we will find that funding is geared towards urban areas. There are some questions within bits that indicate that. And I think that that's a point that we need to raise with our MP, that we're being asked to do work which uses up a huge amount of our officer resource, with a likelihood of actually not particularly getting any money to show for it. And that really, for a rural unitary authority, definitely needs to stop. We're all working incredibly hard to jump through hoops, and we need to know that if we jump through a hoop, it is going to be very worthwhile, crucially for our residents. So it was more a comment, not a question, Chair.
Chair, I'd reinforce the comments actually, and perhaps go a little further. It is incredibly frustrating that we put in significant resource to deliver on time, to then understand that it is unlikely that we will see a return on that investment. That isn't strategic planning, that isn't smart investment. And you know, I agree with Councillor Stevenson that our MP would be asked to take this up so that we don't have to repeat these exercises in the future. But as a county, we have an opportunity to be treated fairly.
I wholeheartedly support that. Thank you. Councillor Payne, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just another quick comment from me. I'm pleased to see in the document it said in many places that we will deliver within our means, i.e. within the grant available. We're not looking to spend more than we get, which is always good. I'd just like to also add that there's an aspiration in the plan to run buses more frequently. I just want to make the point that there's no point in running frequent buses if nobody's using them, because I do see a lot of buses running about the county that are empty, which are not, it's not good for the environment and it's not economic either. So just when we do come to the point of designing the service, that's taken into account.
No, Chair, and in reply, I couldn't agree more. I think we've learned a lot from the Future Rutland Conversation. We've learned a lot about our residents and the way that we're now able to listen to them. And I say that deliberately, listen to our residents rather than talk to our residents. And what we hear from them is really important. And I think it must help decide what progression we make as a county in some of the services that we provide. And equally, some of those we may choose that they decided they do not need. So the art of listening, as opposed to the art of speaking, is far more important as we go forward.
Thank you.
Some wise words there. Thank you very much. And I do think, you know, it's making sure we get that channel shift. If we're going to have buses, we need to make sure people are using them. So the recommendations are the portfolio holder in consultation with Cabinet approve the draft Rutland Enhanced Partnership EP plan, an Enhanced Partnership EP for submission to Council for approval. 2, delegates the authority to the Strategic Director for Places in consultation with the portfolio holder with responsibility for transport to approve any amendments to the EP plan and EP scheme prior to Council and recommends Council to undertake the same delegation. Note that the Enhanced Partnership Plan and Enhanced Partnership Scheme, once made, will be legally binding. And note that the Enhanced Partnership Plan and Enhanced Partnership Schemes are subject to statutory consultation prior to being made. So can I have, by a show of hands from Cabinet, whether we're in support of this? Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 15, which is any items of urgent business. And I don't believe we have any. So it just relies on me to close the meeting at 10:37. Thank you very much all for your attendance. Thank you. Goodbye.